travel a lot. And the question I get asked the most is, how do you do it? How can you afford it? I'm comfortable, but I'm certainly not rich. But I do lead my life differently than most people that I know. So what I thought I would do to help others lead the travel lifestyle that I lead is to teach you the ways that I've learned to save money for travel. And also in a part 2 of this episode, I'm going to teach you how to save money while you're traveling. So today we're going to learn all the different ways that you can save money for your travel account. And then when we come back in 2 weeks, we're going to go into the different ways that you can actually save money while you're on your vacation. And what I really like about the system that I'm going to teach you today is it's not deprivation. You're going to learn ways to save money that work within your values and your lifestyle, the things that you want to do. We're going to find those hidden places that you're actually wasting money. Interested? Then let's get started. Welcome to the Adventure Travel Show podcast. I'm your host, Kit Parks. Like I said, today I'm going to teach you some great tips and techniques that you can sometimes quite easily save money to travel more. A lot of these are painless because we do so many things by rote. So we're going to do a little bit of analysis and kind of clean up our finances in ways that make sense for you and your values so that you're getting joy from the money that you spend instead of just haphazardly spending it where it just lands wherever it lands. Like I said before, I take several epic international trips each year, spending thousands of dollars on each trip. So people think I lead this exciting travel life that's out of reach to them. But it's not. Here's the thing. Like I said, I'm not rich. Many of my friends make way more money than me. So how do I do it? It's a matter of choices and priorities. I've also had a major mindset shift that makes saving money painless for me. I can even say now that I actually find saving money fun. So I want to share with you how I do it so you too can find saving money fun for you and get out there and travel. Or do whatever you want, because saving money for travel or retirement or the kids' college education fund or whatever it is that you value in your life, it takes money. And so I'm going to help teach you ways that you can harness the money you already have that's already coming in. Basically, there's 3 ways that you could save money. You can spend less, save more, and or make more money. So I'm going to go through some of the easy ways in each of these different categories so that you can save more money for travel or other financial goals. And the more of these savings techniques that you adopt, the quicker that you too are going to lead an exciting travel life. So of the 3 pillars, the first pillar of savings is spend less. And it's not draconian, I promise you. Bear with me. There's lots of different areas that we spend money and that we have a lot of freedom in how we spend that money. One of the big ones is like food and drugstore type items. So here's a couple ones. Some of them, like I said, and a lot of these things you may know and maybe not do, or maybe I'm going to teach you some new things that you hadn't really thought of, or new ways to think about some of the things that might improve the ways that you're doing it. Number 1, eat meals at home. Just about every single worker I hire at my rental business goes out for breakfast, goes out for lunch, and they probably are going out for dinner. They're spending a fortune and numerous hours of their labor each day just on food every day. I don't do that. I consider food sustenance. When I go out to eat, I want it to be entertainment, not just to fill my belly. So I eat my meals at home, and if I'm working and I'm at the rentals, I bring my lunch. And again, none of my workers do. They go out to lunch. I bring my chicken sandwich or tuna sandwich. It takes me 5 minutes to make, which is less time than it would take me to go to a fast food restaurant, and definitely to a sit-down restaurant. And not only does it save time, it saves money and is much better for my health. Grocery and drugstore flyers come out usually on Wednesdays. If you don't get a paper, go online and see what's on sale. And then eat what's on sale. You can save 50% on some of the most expensive items on your list. Why not have the pork tenderloin that's buy one and get one free, instead of the full price ground turkey? Fruits and vegetables usually go on sale when they're in season, so you'll be making the freshest and most nutritional choice as well. For most other items, they go on sale on rotation, and they come on sale usually at a pretty consistent pattern. Pay attention to those patterns. And so when it goes on sale and it's a non-perishable, stock up to get you through to the next sale on it. Most of the things that come in a box, bag, can, or a jar fall into this category. This is doubly true for drugstores. If you buy your stuff like I buy my toiletries and cosmetics at the drugstore, I don't buy them unless they're at least buy one, get one 50% off, or buy one, get one free. My expensive night cream, I always wait for that to be on sale and with a rebate. So take advantage of the sales and try not to pay full price for any of your toiletries, makeup, or canned goods. Another thing is, know what the regular items cost. Save your receipts for a while and then make up a list of the things that you repeat buy. And then once you have a list of these are the things that I buy in, day out, throughout the course of the month or 2 months, I buy these items. Then make a field trip to your favorite stores. And then write down what the prices are just that one day. They'll change a little bit, but you'll get an idea. You'd be shocked at the discrepancies between one grocery store to the next. So you may notice looks like I need to get my pasta sauce at the Food Lion, but I want to buy my cottage cheese at Harris Teeter. And I'm not suggesting you go to every grocery store every week. I got a little plan for that too, so hold on. I have my favorite grocery store that I go to once a week, but about once a month, I go to the other ones and pick up the things that are best to buy at that store. And again, if I know the sale rotation and it's non-perishable, I can buy enough to get me through to the next sale, so I'm almost always buying my groceries on sale, often at half price. So in my little realm, I have my go-to grocery store that I like the produce and I like the food there, and they have the best selection. So that's where I go to every week. But then I also have a dollar type store that I get my paper and plastic kind of things. I use a generic basic grocery store. That's where I get my staples. If I need flour or sugar or canned goods or such like that, they're always consistently cheaper than my regular go-to grocery store. And it's the same brand, same product. Why wouldn't I go and buy it where it's cheaper? And then I like to buy my meat, cheeses, and bread at one of those European stores because I find the quality better and the prices are much better than my go-to grocery store. So I'm not spending a whole lot of time grocery shopping. I'm just being more thoughtful about where I'm going, what I'm doing. I'm just strategic about it. And I don't think it takes me any more time to do it my way, but I save a heck of a lot of money on my groceries and my drugstore items. Another thing I do is when it's convenient for me, I prepare and freeze meals ahead of time. I'm a huge fan of using my freezer. I cook up a tasty nutritional meal that might take me an hour. My go-to, like recently, I just made my sweet potato enchiladas and my black bean lasagna. Delicious, love them. Each one takes me almost exactly an hour to make and makes 8 servings apiece. So I leave out 2 portions, so I'll eat one tonight, the day I make it, and then one maybe a couple days later. The other 6 I wrap individually and then put them in a large labeled zip bag. And then I keep an inventory on the side of my refrigerator. And so I'll put sweet potato enchiladas and then draw 6 hashes. And so as I pull them out of the freezer, I'll make a little dash through the hash so that I know that now I'm down to 5 pieces. So I know what's in my freezer. So I don't forget about them, so they get freezer burn. I spent all that time making them. I want to make sure I enjoy them. And that way I can see when it's time for me to look for another afternoon to do some more cooking. And think about this too. So that 1 hour, I get 8 portions. Divide that by the 60 minutes. That's 7.5 minutes to make my dinner. You can't do that if you come home from work, you're tired. No wonder people are eating out all the time. But if you do it when it's convenient, when it's fun, when I do my cooking, it's actually fun because I'm doing it on a Sunday afternoon usually, and it's like a treat because I'm not working, I'm cooking. Something different. I don't know how to cook. So once a month, I'll bang out and make meals for a month. Another thing, and this I know I'm different than most people I've ever met, and I learned it from my late husband Bill, who was the best food manager I've ever seen. In fact, my family still talks about it to this day. And that is food waste. I don't waste food. So the idea is to reduce or eliminate food waste. I waste hardly any food. You know, the average American household wastes $640 worth of food each year. I'll bet I waste less than $10, probably even less than $5. And that's not counting the food that gets thrown away that we don't eat at a restaurant that you don't bring home in a doggy bag. And yep, you guessed it, I bring mine home and I don't throw it away. I eat it and enjoy it. If it looks like I'm not going to be able to finish my produce before it spoils, I prep it, freeze it, and then I'll use it in stir fries if it's vegetables or smoothies, if it's fruits. If I cook a turkey breast, I'll carve it up that day, wrap it in different portion sizes, stick it in one of those zip bags, label it, put it on the freezer, and put the inventory on the side of my fridge. That way, that doesn't go bad. None of my food goes bad because I use it and then I rotate my food. And my cupboards aren't stuffed with food. It's all just filled with things I actually eat. I buy only what I think I'm going to eat in a reasonable period of time, and I shop my cupboards and use those ingredients to make meals. Wouldn't you rather put that $640 into your travel budget or your retirement account? I know I would. Our last food tip is to buy foods in their natural state. A huge way to save money and to improve your health is to buy food in its most natural form. Instead of fancy orange juice, which we're now told is bad for us, eat a fresh orange. For the cost of a fancy jug of orange juice, I can get 3 to 5 pounds of oranges. And it's much better for me, and it's enjoyable. It's a pleasure to eat the orange. Think like a European and basically shop the outer aisles of the grocery store. This will minimize processed foods. It'll help you to buy things that just have 1 or 2 ingredients. Another biggie that we have a lot of flexibility with is entertainment. Here's a little experiment. Ask your friends, are you interested in saving money? I would bet anything 100% raise their hand and say, I do. So how about instead of going out all the time together, do potlucks. Maybe experiment making a new cuisine together. At my sister's once, we made our own pasta one night. What a blast. We still remember that dinner, but I can't necessarily tell you about the dinners where we went out. Maybe you want to just host simple dinners. I have a spaghetti night every once in a while. And then my friends, they're delighted to come because A, it saves them money. They don't have to go out to dinner. It's not a big deal for me to whip up a batch of spaghetti. And they say, what can I bring? I said, just bring what you're drinking. So that's one less thing and expense to worry about. If I'm hosting a fancy dinner party, that's a different story. Then I want to include everything. But just as a casual get-together, my friends love it. It's very chill, and we have a great time. And we also do it more because it is so easy. To me, when I go out to eat, I want to make sure I'm actually going out to dine. I'm not just going to stuff my belly. I'm going out to have fun. I want my entertainment expenses to give me joyful memories. And if they're not, I'm wasting my money. Want to stay on budget when you go out? Leave your credit card at home and just bring the amount of cash that you've budgeted for that night. The third way to reduce your spending is to cut back on that cafe habit. Do you go out to the coffee shop every day? If you're sitting there and having enjoyment, sitting there and enjoying the ambiance of the cafe, that's one thing. But if you're just going and taking your Starbucks to go, you're leaving a lot of money out of your travel budget. Think of this. If you're spending $4 or $5 each day on a coffee, that could be $1,500 a year. Me, I boil a pot of water, I throw in my green tea, I doctor it up with some Freshman's ginger, cloves, and cinnamon, and I take a big old thermos of tea that I enjoy all morning. It probably costs me $0.25. That gives me $1,400 more than you to put into my savings account. Seriously, tweaking this one little habit can put $1,500 into your bank account. And yours may not be coffee. I'll give you another example. I'm going to use my rental helper, Toby. Every day he buys 2 fountain drinks. They're a lousy couple of bucks each. What's the big deal? So one day I showed him that he was spending $30 a week on his soda, and that therefore he too was spending $1,500 a year on soda. You should have seen the light bulb go off. I mean, that was mind-boggling money to him. And meanwhile, I'm using my reusable bottle with my free water. Plus, I'm helping the planet. What are your little incidental expenses? That's only a few bucks. Are they bringing you joy? If they're bringing you joy, keep doing them. But if it's just a habit, if it's just a convenience, is there some way that you can tweak that so that you can find either a less or no expensive way of doing it, like my water or tea, that you can then take that savings and put that into your travel budget? The fourth area that you can save money is on transportation. Car payments now are averaging almost $500 a month. Would you rather spend that on travel or your retirement? I personally haven't had a car payment in over 20 years. But I drive a used car that I buy with cash. Do you know you can get a reliable car for under 10 grand? My cars, I drive them until it no longer feels reliable, and sometimes even a little bit less. Last year, I gave away my 1999 Camry, which still worked fine, but one day the door handle broke off because it's getting really old. It's a 20-year-old car. So the door handle broke off my hand. I said, okay, that's it. It's time. Not because it was even unreliable. I could have still driven that thing probably another 25,000 miles. So instead, now I drive a 2005 Camry, now still 15-year-old car. Works great, looks great. What's the big deal? For $7,000, you can get a really good car that will, like I said, I get 15 years out of it. So let's look at the savings. All right. Personally, like I said, I haven't bought a car on payments and I can't remember how long. So when I saw that the average now is $500, I was shocked. So if my average car cost me $7,000, it pays for itself in just over a year. Then I'm driving it for another 15 years on average for free. Outside of maintenance, I'm going to have maintenance on another car anyway. And a good car, I just do the scheduled maintenance. You got to do that anyway with your fancy cars. $500 a month for 15 years is $90,000. Can you imagine the mega around the world trip you could do for $90,000? And remember, you know it, that new car smell and that appeal after a month or two, that's so yesterday. And it becomes just regular transportation again. Get yourself out of that car payment rut. It's not too hard to save up $5,000 to $10,000 so you can pay cash for your next car. This is a super big one that really is painless unless you are a car fanatic. That having a big fancy car, that's your life. Then if that's your life, go for it. But for most of us, it's transportation. If you're spending that kind of money on basic transportation, that's your choice. But you've made a choice and a trade-off. You get the fancy car, I get to go on an African safari. You decide. What do you want to do? How do you choose to spend your money and live your life? This one's not going to go over very well, but the fifth way that you can cut your expenses is on housing. Do you need to spend a third of your income on housing? That's the average. Sometimes in some of the cities, it's even higher. How important is it for you to live in the specific neighborhood or in a specifically sized house? Did you know most of the McMansions today have multiple unused rooms? My stepson, who does floors, says he goes back a year later and half the rooms don't even have furniture in them yet. Is this you? Is downsizing or moving to a nice but just not as desirable neighborhood a valid trade-off for more travel? Is moving to someplace less expensive something that could possibly work for you? If you don't want to downsize, which I did, and I'm going to tell you about that in a little bit, could you rent out a room on Airbnb? My girlfriends Catherine and Stevie love Airbnb because they get to meet interesting people from all over the world, many of whom become real friends. Their initial goal was to help cover the mortgage, but now I think they're getting more from the experience than just income. If you can't rent a room, that gives you, I don't like that. What about garage space or letting somebody park their boat if you've got a big yard? Maybe you can rent your house out when you travel. I know one Philadelphia company, they do that. They rent their home, then that way that pays for their lodging basically when they go on their travel. We're going to talk about house swaps and house sitting and pet sitting in the follow-up episode, the part 2 of this episode in 2 weeks. So think outside the box. Housing is one of your biggest expenses. How can you bring it down while still enjoying your life? The sixth way that you can cut expenses is on insurance and utilities. They're the ugly, gross things. Nobody wants to pay those. Cut the cable. When Bill died in 2014, I discovered our business was losing money since we had neglected it while he was ill. So I made drastic cuts in my spending. Cable was the first thing to go, and frankly, I don't miss it. Get together with friends and family and share streaming services, share cell phone plans, etc. Work together, and if you still got one, consider getting rid of that landline. Be sure to competitive shop all of your cell phone services, your insurances, all those things that you have to have, but you don't like necessarily paying for. Do you really need the latest phone, or can you wait a year and buy an improved phone over your current one, but you'll be buying at a significant discount? Comparison shop your insurance. That keeps your agencies honest and makes sure that you're not paying too much for insurance. A seventh area of places that you can cut spending is memberships and subscriptions. Think gyms, magazine subscriptions. Is it possible for you to use the free outdoor playground as your gym? Can you get the same results for the less expensive gym? Do you need those subscriptions? Are you even reading those subscriptions? Or can you read them from the library? Or even easier, did you know that your library has access to gazillions of magazines and books online for free? If you haven't been to a library lately, that is worth a field trip. You wouldn't believe how they've always been great. I've always been a library lover. But it's unbelievable now, the services that they offer, many of which you can access from home. So do make time to take a field trip to your local library if you have not been doing so already. The last area that we can cut our costs is on our stuff. This one is simple. Buy less stuff. We are overflowing with things, especially here in the U.S. I'm going to teach you an exercise in a little bit that'll help you see for yourself what things you're buying that are giving you joy, or are they just a waste of money? And there are things that are personal to you. So this way, this whole system is tailored to you so that you're actually spending your money on things that mean something to you. Instead of just randomly, oh, you're just so busy, you just buy it. No, thoughtfully use your money so you're in charge of your money, not it being in charge of you. I'll also teach you some tips in a little bit too, how to make that painless. Because remember, the more stuff you buy, that also means the more time you're spending taking care of it. So to repeat, buy less stuff. Borrow or rent the occasional use items. You can even rent dress clothes these days. Ditto for tools. I wanted to get a fancy $800 pair of binoculars to take with me on my African safari. I wanted to really see the animals, and at some class I took, they lent me some Bausch & Lomb binoculars. I was like, whoa, what a difference, real binoculars versus the yucky ones I had. I was like, I want those. But I was like, ouch, $800. How can I justify that? I'm only going to use it on this one trip and probably a little afterwards. So what I ended up doing, I was mentioning this in one of my hiking clubs, and the girl said, oh, she had a really good pair that she'd paid $700 something for. I was like, hey, can I rent those from you for $50? She was thrilled. I saved $700. So think before you buy, particularly on occasional use things. Is there another option? Then what's your gazinga? By that, I mean, what is the thing that you buy that gives you a little dopamine hit whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed? My gazinga was, and I marked that was because I finally got control of it, was craft supplies. Even though I never actually had time to do the crafts. I think I was buying these things because it gave me the fantasy that I actually was going to have time to chill out and relax and do some creative artwork. My sister Liz, when she gets stressed, she needs a lipstick. For Paul, he likes his sports memorabilia. We all have a gazinga. What's your gazinga? Because it only gives you that short dopamine hit and then it doesn't work anymore. So if you can figure out a way to switch your gazinga habit for something that's either costs nothing or little and still makes you feel like you're doing some self-care, because that's all we're doing when we do that, in my opinion. I'm not a psychologist, but from my analysis, from my gazingas, it was when I was feeling stressed, I would do that to lash out that, yes, I am in charge of my life. And so I'd go buy yarn. I don't know how to knit, but it made me feel like, oh, I have time to take a class. It was doing something, some kind of a internal thing that made me feel good when I bought it, but it doesn't last very long. So maybe the self-care would be to substitute taking a walk in the park, bring a thermos of tea, and go sit and watch the birds for a little bit. Some kind of a self-care to replace that need to validate something that we're doing whenever we want to impulse buy that, whatever your gazinga is. Another way to cut costs is to buy bulk on the things that you actually use, but only if you're actually going to use the amount. Don't fall prey to filling up your cart with savings and then spending more money than you would have had you bought it separately. My brother-in-law, Bill, notorious for that. He actually got rid of his Sam's Club membership for that reason. He would go to save office supplies for the business, but spending a fortune on all this other junk. So he's like, no, that wasn't working for me. So if that works for you, great. If not, don't do it. Use a shopping list and then stick to it to help avoid those impulse purchases, or else buy online. And speaking of online, another way to cut costs is to use these online apps that automatically do the comparison shopping for you, so when you do buy something, you get the best deal. There are even some that will alert you when something you want comes on sale. Because I keep my content evergreen, I don't want to list apps because they come and they go. So just Google comparison shopping app and see what's popping up and what's the most popular right now. And here's a biggie that has saved me thousands of dollars. Something I call the 30-day rule. I think a lot of things when it comes to money, it's a very emotional thing. It's in our head. You know, we have these attachments to it. And when we want something, we don't want to feel deprived. So if there's something I want to buy, I say, fine. I tell my brain, yes, Kit, you can have whatever you want. You just got to wait 30 days. And would you believe, and I'm sure you will because you've been there, it's just like I have, in 30 days, A, you've probably already forgotten about it, or B, you really don't want it anymore. It was just that moment. I just got to get one of those fancy bikes where I can compete with people across the country on. I desperately need that new Big Bertha golf club. I know if I get a better reel, I'll be able to catch more fish. Fine, Kit, you can get that bike. Mary, it's okay. You can get that golf club. Paul, you can get that fishing reel. You just gotta wait 30 days. And once you realize you can have what you want, you relax. Whatever it is about that, it triggers the brain, so all of a sudden, oh, okay, if I can get it, I can wait. I can do that. And so all of a sudden, you don't feel like you're being deprived anymore. And so if I still find after 30 days that I still really want that thing, then I figure out a way to get it for cash. No credit cards, or at least no debt. I follow a really strict no debt rule, particularly with anything that depreciates like a car. And lastly, it's a little boring, but learn to budget. It's very empowering once you get the initial scary part over with and you learn to be in charge of your money instead of it being your master. I'll put some resources on the website as well as in the download that I'll be sending out to go with this episode. My personal spending is in habit now, and I'm just naturally on alert when I do spend money for the most part, so I don't need to keep a detailed record anymore. But if I find myself getting a little sloppy, making and sticking to a budget helps get me back on track. And actually, the bottom line in all this spending less money is learn to live below your means and then channeling your excess into your savings. All right, so we talked about ways that we can cut costs. The second pillar is to save more. So how do we do that? For one thing, nobody has any extra money for savings. Let me repeat that. No one has any extra money for savings. Money is always going to seep out and drip away and find a place to go. How many movie stars and athletes who have made millions of dollars have gone bankrupt? Lots. I could probably rattle off a half a dozen without even thinking about it. People who successfully save have created a mindset that allows them to do so. It's in our human nature to want something now, and that makes it more valuable to us than something we have to wait for. So the fancy car now is more important to us than our retirement 30 years from now. So the key is we're going to have to trick our brain into finding delayed gratification much more fun than current gratification. So how do we do this? When I was just getting started out of college, I remember learning that first you have to save 6 months of income. No way that was ever going to happen. I used up all my money every month. How was that ever possible? It was an impossible dream for me then. When times were good, I saved, but then it would go to buy a new car or auto repairs or some emergency would come up or I had to move. So it seemed like every time I got to somewhere around $5,000, something would gobble it up and I'd have to start all over again. Retirement or a travel savings account seemed impossible. I was self-employed with erratic income and there's never anything left at the end of the month. Sound familiar? But at 38 years old, I realized that at age 60, when I hope to retire, I realized that that's right around the corner. And if I didn't want to end up old and poor, I had to do something about it. And I had nothing in a retirement account. I guess some people would call me a serial entrepreneur, but not any of the highfalutin, high roller businesses. All of mine have been, moderately successful, pay the bills kind of a thing. I just would start a business. I'd scratch my own itch on something that was interesting to me. And I'd start a business around whatever my current hobby was. And in the beginning, my new part-time business would lose money, but eventually I'd get it to work so that it could support me. And then after usually, 5 to 10 years, I'd get bored of that, get interested in something else, close that business down, and start a new business. And this famine to feast cycle would start all over again. Thus, my income fluctuations have taught me how to live frugally when times are lean. But still, there was never any money at the end of the month. I never really minded the poor times because I believed in myself and I knew that eventually I could make the business work. But what about when I retire, when I stop working? I didn't want to be poor. My biggest fear has always been being old and poor. So I decided I was going to learn how to truly save. This savings habit then morphed into creating savings buckets for all sorts of things. Within 10 years, savings became a game, and I was actually getting pretty good at it. I was winning. But back when I was 38 years old, like I said, I had nothing set aside for retirement, and I was terrified. Through research, I learned about a third of 30 to 50-year-olds have less than $1,000 in retirement savings. Yep, that was me. I was one of them. To reach my retirement goals, a calculator said that I would have to start saving over $650 a month. Impossible, I thought. However, I didn't want to be eating dog food, old and broke, so I decided something would be better than nothing. So I decided I would do the old tried and true method and pay myself first. I'd heard about it, but I'd never tried it. But I decided to give it a go, and so I decided I would earn $200 a month. I had a breakthrough. I was thinking, I work my tail off. I always have. So at 38, I finally got mad. At the end of each year, how is it, as hard as I've worked, that I have nothing to show for it? Never again. I decided that I'm worth at least $200 a month, even though I didn't believe at the time I could spare that $200. Thus, I paid me this $200 a month before any other bills got paid. I finally realized that when it comes to money, it's not what you make, it's what you save. Because what you save is really, when everything's said and done, what you've actually earned. So I had $200 directly taken from my checking account into a new savings account at the beginning of the month, and I was not going to touch it. Two really important things happened. Number one, I made the mental mind shift that saving is not deprivation, but a reward. I deserved this savings. I deserve this savings and the security. This is so huge. I'm going to repeat it again. Saving money is not deprivation. You work hard and you are worth your savings. You have earned your savings. So that's number one. Number two, by paying myself through an automatic draft from my checking account to my new savings account, I treated my savings like a bill, and I always pay my bills. But here's the funny thing. I never missed it. At the end of the month, there was still very little in my checking account. However, there was $200 more in my savings account. $200 a month for 12 months is $2,400. No great shakes, but it sure beats the zero I started out with. Then I got this great idea. If I didn't miss $200, what if I gave myself a raise? I don't remember how much my first raise was, but since then, every January I give myself a raise. In 5 years, from zero, I went to zero to over $20,000. And by now, I was properly investing and diversifying my accounts. And guess what? At the end of the month, 5 years later, there was still nothing left in my checking account at the end of the month. But my monthly income that went into savings crossed $1,000 a month, and those two initial realizations still came true. Number one, saving money had become fun, and I looked forward to stretching myself to see what my January raise would be. And I started other buckets, like one for travel, one for charity, one for short-term needs like a car. Every year, every bucket got a raise. I was worth filling these buckets. But still, that number two realization still holds true. At the end of the month, there's not very much left over. Throughout the month, I'd look at my checking account, I'd see that the number was dwindling down, so I seemed to automatically tweak my spending to whatever was still left in there. And that's what we do. That's why there's never anything at the end of the month. The aha moment. And then, because I'd already paid myself the savings, I could spend everything in that checking account if I wanted to because my saving buckets were already full. That was 22 years ago. And guess what? This year I turned 60. And because of my little buckets in this mindset change, I can retire this year if I want to. If I waited until I had enough money at the end of the month, I'd still be broke. I now have a satisfying retirement account. I can travel as often as I want to some really cool destinations. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable, and I don't think I'm going to have to eat dog food in my retirement. The fear is finally gone. And if you're having problems making the mental mind shift that savings is deprivation, try thinking about it instead as future spending and see if that mind shift helps a little bit until you can get there, that this is a reward. It's not deprivation. So let's swing this back to my travel savings. So in my travel savings account, I now, just in that one account, put $1,000. That's a huge amount, right? However, I've made other adjustments in my life, so it's actually not that big of a deal. Let me explain. My husband died in 2014, and then when I took over the books, I discovered to my horror that we were in a bit of financial stress with my rentals. And the rentals is what basically paid the bills. I own a small mobile home park, and during Bill's illness, we had neglected the business. I needed to make some dramatic changes immediately. So I looked over all my expenses, I looked over my debt, and then I had another aha moment. Because I'm handy, I buy fixer-upper homes and then proceed to make them nice again. We bought our Cary home in the midst of the housing crisis, so we got a pretty good deal on it. We then cash flowed the remodeling, so we had a sizable equity in the house when Bill died. And I realized if I sold my house, a house that I loved, I poured my heart and soul into for years, that I could take that equity and buy a more modest home for cash and have no mortgage. And that's what I did. And you know what? I never missed my fancy house. And even though financial folks are going to tell you that what I did was stupid in this era of cheap money, that I should carry a mortgage, there's something wonderful yet intangible about owning your own home free and clear. It all but eliminates financial worries for me. And I used what I cleared on the sale of my Cary house to buy a very modest 1962 fixer-upper ranch for $131,000 cash. It was the ugly duckling on the block. Then I cash flowed the remodel. Meaning, when I say that, I mean I paid for it as I went without charging anything or taking out a second mortgage or financing it in any manner. So my house, it's in a nice neighborhood, nothing fancy, but it's safe, it's quiet, it's clean. Do my friends judge me because I live in a more modest neighborhood than they do? I don't think so. I never saw any signs of that. And if they did, they're not really my friends. All I know is that making this move got me out of that hamster wheel of finances, and it was so worth it. Today, property taxes, property insurance, and utilities on this house, and my splurge to get my lawn taken care of for me, cost me $400 a month. I couldn't rent anything yucky around here for that. And before, I was paying close to $2,000 a month for my Cary home. So making this one adjustment in my lifestyle, I freed up $1,600 a month, and $1,000 of that is going to my travel fund. So while yes, $1,000 a month is a lot, that one decision still gives me another $600 to put into other savings buckets. I made a strategic and conscientious choice to put my money where my priorities are. What are your priorities in life? And is your spending aligned with those priorities? That's what we're looking for. Right now, I've got a major focus on travel. That's what's important to me. I want to go hike the world while my legs and my knees and my back can still do it. So time is of the essence. So I got to beef that thing up as much as I can. Everything we do, every decision we make is a choice. It's a trade-off. I choose experiences in travel over a bigger home. I've never once regretted it. As a bonus, my smaller home is less maintenance and is much faster to clean, so the move has also freed up a lot of my valuable time. So that's my story. Here are some other ways that you can find money to fill your savings pot. If you use cash, some of us still do, at the end of each day, toss your change into a big jar. I had a boss when I was in high school. I was called a mother's helper, basically a live-in slave for a fancy family that lived out in the end of Long Island, summer home in Long Island. So I kind of took care of the kids and the house and all that kind of stuff. But what Mr. McAllister would do is at the end of each day, he'd toss all the change and small bills into this big jar, and then every Friday he'd put a 20 in there. He put his kids through college with that. Another way, if you get a raise, spend 10% if you want, but put 90% of it into your savings. You'll get that instant reward from your raise, but you're not going to miss that 90% difference. The single most important thing you can do, pay yourself first. Automate your savings and give yourself a raise each year. I would recommend you set up a $1,000 emergency fund to start. Don't get overwhelmed with that, oh, I got to save 6 months. That was my big blockage. I could have kept $1,000 in an emergency fund. That wouldn't have been a problem. But trying to save $10, $20, $30,000. I couldn't imagine it. So I don't recommend doing that. Get your $1,000 so if something goes out with the car, you've got some money to fix it. And then the next thing I would do before even your travel is set up your retirement fund. Max that out, especially if you have a company match. And then start building up your buckets. You want to eventually do build up to that 6 month of emergency fund, 12 months if you're self-employed like I am. But just add a little bit each month. Remember, it's going to get there eventually. Every day, every month, just kick that ball a little bit further towards the goal. You're going to get there. Time goes so fast. It won't be long before all of a sudden you see it working for you and compounding and building, and now it's really getting kind of fun for me. So set up a bucket for the things that are important to you. Your retirement, your short-term needs, car replacement, education for the kids, down payments on a home, your travel, etc. And then here's the neat trick that I do with my travel fund. When I'm booking a trip, a lot of the bills come staggered before the trip. You might book a tour and you got a deposit now and a couple more payments might come in at different times. You might have the airfares this month and then next month you're booking your lodging or something else. I try to only tap into my travel savings account when I can't cash flow it from my checking account, from my everyday checking account. If I can pay for it out of my checking account, that's what I do first. Because it always puts that little squeeze on me just to keep an eye on my money. If I see it dwindling down, I automatically, without even thinking about it, pare back my spending a little bit. Because I like to keep a certain buffer in my account. And when I see it getting low, then maybe I don't go out to eat this week. I might have the friends over. So anyway, so if I can cash flow the Airbnb, great. It doesn't come out of the travel bucket. Generally speaking, I only go into that travel account when I've got a big tour bill coming up that I really don't want to take that out of the checking account. That really lets that account grow for me. When I look at how I spend my money, I see that I'd much rather live in the small, easy-to-maintain 60s ranch, drive my 2005 Camry, wear out my clothes, which I do. I wear them till they go to the landfill. Most of them aren't good enough to go to Salvation Army. Because once they start looking a little bad, I demote them to work clothes at my rentals, where they get totally trashed. Take advantage of the free fun opportunities around here, like the library and our Alive at 5 concerts. I visit our state park. That's where I hike here. That's my gym. What do you want to do? I haven't had a cable bill since Bill died. I don't think anything of buying something used. I don't care if it's furniture or clothing. I actually get a kick out of saving money. It's true, I find it fun now. And once you get the hang of it, you will too. I've got 2 exercises I'd like you to do. They're pretty easy, and I think you'll find them very enlightening. Exercise number 1, track your spending. Do you even know how you're spending your money? So the first exercise, for 1 month, I want you to keep track of everything. I don't care if it's a $2 slushie. Whatever it is, you write down in a notebook every single thing that you spend money on. Every single day. Keep the receipts if you're not writing it down until you get home at night. And I want you to put columns in it. All right, so the first one's going to have the date, the description, the amount, the category, whether it's food, clothing, housing, transportation, entertainment, whatever the different categories that you mentally block your expenses in. And then make 2 columns. One's called need, one's called want. All right, and be honest here. Is what you just spent your money on a need or a want? Make 2 more columns, yes and no, but leave those blank for now. At the end of the month, I want you to go look over your little log in your notebook and ask yourself on each item, are you happy that you bought it, looking back? And again, be honest. This is for you. Did the purchase of whatever it was, did it bring you joy? Are you glad you bought it? Would you buy it again? And if your answer is yes, put it in the yes column. And if it's no, put it in the no column. This is going to be a really enlightening exercise for you. Get a couple of colored highlighters. All right, I'm going to use for this example yellow and blue. So I want you to go through the log, and every one that has a want and a no in the columns, highlight that in yellow. Take your blue one, everything that has need and a no, highlight those in the blue. And then add up all your yellow amounts and add up all your blue amounts and write those down at the bottom of the want and the need columns. These are the items that are not bringing you joy, fulfillment, or pleasure each month. So this is what we're going to tackle first. For whatever reason, they don't make enough value to you to justify their expense. So when you're looking for painless ways to save money, these are the things that are your low-hanging fruit. Go after these first because they're not giving you joy, or they're not giving enough joy to justify the expense. These are really easy things to tweak that can make huge differences in your savings. And on the want/no's, you're not even going to miss them because they're not bringing you joy anyway. Make comparison shopping for your blue need plus no items and buy the least expensive, satisfactory thing that's going to get the job done. Whether it's insurance, whatever the thing is that you got to buy it, you need it, but it doesn't bring you any joy. Like, I hate car insurance. I'm going to get what covers me, but I don't want to pay a dime more than I have to. Ditto medical insurance. These are your drudgery items. And like I said, usually insurances that you have to buy, but you get no satisfaction out of buying. You want to be a really good shopper of these needed items. And I'd say at least once a year on the biggies, comparison shop them. Then you're going to tackle like a linebacker your yellow want plus no items. This is where you're truly throwing money out the window. Stop spending money on them. This could be, you just stopped to get takeout because you're just too tired to cook and you're starving and but you couldn't even tell you what you ate. You couldn't even remember what you ate. It brought you no joy. It just filled your belly, but it probably 4 or 5 times what it cost if you had the frozen TV dinner that you made on a Sunday afternoon. Maybe you got some new clothes because you were bored and went shopping one day. Did you really need that book that the library is happy to get you for free? Are you buying more gazingas to add to your already unused collection? I wouldn't even want to know how many thousands of dollars I spent on stuff that never got used. Do you have clothes in your closet still with their tags on? How long have they been there? These are the kinds of things we're going for. Usually it's these items. They give you a temporary lift when you buy them, but they add no lasting value to your life. Try to find substitutions that don't cost money to fill that void. And look at the amounts. Look at those totals. Wouldn't you rather spend that on a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you'll cherish for the rest of your life? Go get joy from your money and stop frittering away on things that aren't bringing you joy. Has this exercise been eye-opening for you? I hope so. And now let's get on to the next exercise. So now, you got to figure out what its value is to you. And here we're going to use a business concept called zero-based budgeting. So instead of assuming everything, like in the government, everything is at this level this year, so we need to bump it up 5% for next year. Instead of doing that way, the way most people do it, take a hard look at all the things you spend money on, and after you've seen what items are giving you pleasure and enhancing your life and which ones aren't, what can you get rid of or reduce? What would your life look like if you spent $0 on an item? And at what level of spending does an item give you joy? And then also, where's the tipping point where it stops enhancing your life? Almost everything in life seems to be on a bell curve. And then if you could find that magic point where going out to dinner with your spouse, it's exactly what you want to do and you're having a great time. But if you do it every single day, then it becomes mundane and you don't cherish it anymore. Find out where is that point where it brings you joy, but you don't take it for granted. When does it stop becoming a treat? You want to find where that peak enjoyment is before that curve starts sliding back downhill again on whatever it is that you spend money on. That gives you joy, but there becomes a point where you don't appreciate it anymore. So find that point and then spend at that level. They say that most people, once they make like $70,000 or more, they don't get any happier no matter how much more money they make. It's the same thing on spending things, on your categories. So go back to your notebook and get a couple of different colored markers. And now color the other two, your want and yes and your need and yes items. And go through these items. Are these items giving me enough pleasure that I want to keep them at the same spending levels? Or would I get more joy just by tweaking things a little bit? Maybe you can replace them with a free option. Or maybe not do them quite as often. And that way you still get that spark of joy when you do it again. Where is the point where a treat becomes a given? Maybe you could borrow books and movies from your library instead of downloading or buying them. I love books, love movies, but I do it the free way. Unless it's a reference book, I don't buy it. We all want a fun and fulfilled life. These exercises are made to make sure that you're spending life aligned with your values. It's definitely not about deprivation, or you're not going to stick to it. Spend your money on the things that bring you joy and reduce or eliminate those non-essentials that don't. And for the need items, sorry, but we're still going to be stuck with the medical and car insurance, but it doesn't mean you can't shop for the best deal for you so you can minimize those unfulfilling expenses. Make it all a game, and a game you're going to win. And we still have one last way to build your vacation savings account. You can, drum roll please, earn more. Let's say you can't get the raise at work. There's still some ways that you can earn money that you can add to your travel savings account. And these little jobs don't need to be permanent. You can do them just on an as-needed basis, temporary basis. Maybe you save for 1 month out of the year or 1 quarter out of the year. I'm going to do a little bit extra and throw that into my travel account. You could pick up some late seasonal help right before the holidays. Maybe you take a short-term side job. Right now, the census signs are all over the place. They're looking for somebody to help them out for a couple of months. Flexible hours. Pretty decent pay, probably. It's the government. Maybe you can do a rideshare app or post one of your skills in one of the task or gig apps. Maybe get a part-time job at night and weekends. Remember, it doesn't have to be forever. Maybe you do it for 6 months, a year. Maybe you do it till you hit a certain number for a trip that you want to get done by a certain time. Maybe you do it until you save up enough to climb Kilimanjaro or head to the Galapagos. Maybe start a side hustle. That's how all my businesses started. Can you paint? Can you do lawns? Can you code? Do you know how to play music? Do photography? Graphic design? Can you sell? What special skill can you offer that somebody else may not have the time or the money to do themselves? And they might want to hire you to do it. Virtually all the businesses I started began as a side hustle that ended up growing into my full-time work. But even if it doesn't, remember, it doesn't have to be forever. You're in charge of your time. You're the boss. I'm going to finish up with a couple of psychological helpers to help keep you motivated as you build your travel savings account. Number 1, this might sound silly at first, but for me, this worked great. I want you to draw a thermostat to visualize your dream. You see them all the time in front of schools doing fundraisers. Oh, the school goal is to raise $100,000, and so far they're at $50,300. I actually used this technique when I had my wholesale nursery business. My late husband Bill and I would use those 0% financing offers. They give you 90 days, 0%. And we would use those to finance our spring flower season, where we had to come up with a whole bunch of money, and we didn't get the money from our customers for like a month later. And I would only recommend doing that if you happen to be a really super averse to debt like we were. So you don't want to get yourself into trouble. However, for us, let's say we charged $50,000 in initial plant stock. I would draw one of those little ball at the bottom thermostats, and the top of the thermostat would say $50,000. And then each week, using a different colored pencil, I would draw in our sales and watch it march up towards that $50,000 when I knew we had sold enough to finally pay off that debt nut. And I was able to actually see my progress and get encouraged. And I actually still have those. This technique was surprisingly effective. Let's say you want to climb Kilimanjaro. It's an expensive trip. You're going to probably, maybe with airfare, it might cost you $8,000. Draw your goal thermostat. Get a magnet, stick it on the refrigerator. And then every month or every pay period, whatever works for you, use a colored pencil like I did with my flowers and fill in how much you saved so you can actually see you're marching towards your goal to climb the mountain. You'll see those bands of colors charge up that thermostat. This is so powerful, like I said, that a decade later, after closing my nursery, I still have those thermostat papers. They still make me smile anytime I see them. The second trick is to make a game out of saving. No one wants to feel deprived. And if you feel like you're sacrificing rather than benefiting from savings, your plan's going to fail. So it's critical that you got to trick your brain into loving savings. So here's a couple different ways. Let's say you get $5 in bonus bucks from buying something at the drugstore. Get a jug and actually put that $5 in it so you can see your piggy bank growing. Remember, My old boss out on Long Island with his jug that put his kids through college. Do the same thing with coupons and rebates. Speaking of which, if you get a rebate product, when you get home, mail it in. When I worked for Hamilton Beach in my previous life, I oversaw the rebate program as part of my job. And I remember that when we calculated how much the program would cost, we knew that statistically a $2 rebate would, I don't remember the exact stats, but let's say the $2 rebate would actually cost us 40 cents since 80% of the people wouldn't bother to mail it in. A $10 rebate might cost $6 or $7 because a higher percentage would. Nonetheless, thousands of people were leaving money on the table. Don't leave money on the table. If there's a rebate, mail it in when you get home. If you qualify for a discount on Tuesdays as a senior at the grocery store, that's when you want to shop. If you're AARP or AAA or military or student, ask for your discount. And whenever you get those coupons at the grocery or the drugstores with either bonus bucks or special coupons for free or discounts or whatever it is, they're also, like the rebate, they're counting on you forgetting about it or losing it. I stick those coupons on the dashboard of my car, so when I'm in the car and I can see, I see it, so I don't forget it. It's sticking right over there by the gas meter. They're not going to screw me out of my $2 or my $5 or whatever the thing is, because I'm going to remember the next time I go to the drugstore. I'm going to remember the next time I go to Harris Teeter. It's super simple and really effective. And also, before you go shopping, check online first. Look for discount coupons and print them out if that's the only way they'll let you use them. They're getting smarter about people bringing their smartphones in, and so they won't let you just scan a coupon in a lot of stores. You've got to bring a printed one. You can save 10 to 20% here. And while you're shopping, too, use a private window online, and I can teach you how to do that on my How to Buy Cheap Airfares. I'll put a link in the show notes to that. That's a great way just to shop anyway online, not just to buy airfares. So I know I threw a lot at you today. I do hope that you are on the newsletter list so that you will get all of this in a easy to digest format, a little checklist, so that you can tweak and see what will work for you to help you save for your travel savings in the future or any of your savings accounts in the future. I do know that because I do virtually everything on this list, it has transformed my financial life. And I think it will do the same for you. You don't have to do all of them. Start off with the ones that are easy for you. Pick that low-hanging fruit. And as you get confidence and skills and you see it growing, all of a sudden it becomes a game. And you will win at the game. Remember, if you learn to live below your means and set aside that difference and realize that you deserve to save the money, you've earned this money, so save it. That's your money. You've earned it. You deserve it. You deserve to lead the life that you want and you dream. And these are some of the ways that you can get there. If you found this helpful, please share it with your friends. And go to the website. You can see all this written down if you need to digest it a little bit more. And of course, I hope you sign up for the newsletter. At the beginning of each month, I send out one email that includes all the free downloads from both this show and my Active Travel Adventures destination show. That'll have free travel planners and any tips that I found through the month. There's sometimes some discounts. And anyway, I don't spam you. I don't sell your name. It's just a conversation between you and me one time a month. So be sure to sign up online, or you can always email at kit@activetraveladventures.com. I really appreciate you listening. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I want to hear from you how it has helped. All I can tell you is that it has changed my life and has allowed me to travel the world on my terms. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, this is Kit Parks. Adventure on.